Hey good looking, welcome back to another episode of what I'm using instead. Today I'll be featuring for you guys singles from my single eyeshadow collection to dupe the vibes of the brand new Natasha Denona My Dream palette. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please subscribe down below and let's get started. So many of you guys, you probably don't know. You probably don't know, but I broke my left foot, so I'm kind of limited in how I get around, and I'm using the squeaky chair because the other chair is over there. Oh, it's a whole ordeal. Anyways, we're gonna get into what I chose for my single eyeshadow collection, and long story short, because of my broken foot, I can't stand to do the arm swatches, so we're gonna just go ahead and sit here and swatch them out together. I'm going to feature also a look, this look today, and then also a look with the Multichrome from Devinah Asteria. So, you know, just kind of showcasing a couple different options here. I first started out with the Asteria, and then I found that I remembered that I had this little guy in my collection. It's the Cliondah Multichrome. It's from the Jeweled collection, and it is flame blown, and it gives the perfect multichrome dupe for the Natasha Denona. So if you want to make your dream palette, stick around. I'm gonna have to take off my jacket here. We'll start with I'll just show you. I know a couple of the shades, but I don't even know a couple of the shades. I only know one, and that's Vision. So I'll just go down the row and you guys can see what I'm using instead. The first shade that I'm using in my palette for the blackest black, but I don't know what Natasha describes it as in her actual video, and it is Makeup Geek's Corrupt. I think it's like one of the blackest blacks I actually own. So then next, for the dark plummy shade, I'm using Taboo from Makeup Geek. Most of these are going to be from Makeup Geek. I don't know, I was just feeling it. The Makeup Geek way. It does have a purple plummy undertone to it. It's not really coming across the camera all that well, but I can assure you, on the brush, it does a really good job. Starting out with a black is no good because it kind of sets you back one with the finger swatches here. Alright, then I'm switching over to Sydney Grace's Rover for that third shade. This is a nice, like, taupey purple. This is not how I usually do this. I usually have like a formal swatch thing, but I can't stand because my broken foot. At least not for long periods of time, and not without my crutches very easily. So that's why we gotta do it this way, folks. Sydney Grace's Lords of Leaping is gonna be that fourth shade in on the top row. Showing it to you there. This is kind of more red based brown, which in the swatches hers look that way. So, and I was really surprised. Last shade on that row is going to be Paris. And all of these Sydney Grace shadows, by the way, are highly recommend. So if you don't already own them and you're looking to purchase some Sydney Grace shadows, those would be really good ones to own. Alright, let's start with the second row, going from left to right. The first shade is Dedicated, and it is Makeup Geek's Power Pigment that I'm using. And then let's speed this up, shall we? And then I'm doing Turtle Doves for that kind of more icy champagne. And then Tuscan Sun for that peachy pink. Oh, it didn't even swatch at all. Oy, oy, oy. Remove the hard pan so we can get a good swatch. There we go. And this is that Sydney Grace shadow. Turtle Doves. Let me just build that up just a little bit. There is quite a bit of pigment on there, but it's really icy, so you don't really see it. There's Tuscan Sun. Let me grab another swatch and build it up. Okay. The last two shadows in the second row are going to be Makeup Geek's Curtain Call. This is also found in her square pan. I'm not sure if it's still available on the website or not. I did actually check the Makeup Geek website. Still have a couple of things for sale, but not too many. So, and I think most of the pigments are sold out. So, but anyways, I chose the round pan. It was one of the last shadows that she released in the square rebrand version. But there's Curtain Call, and then Apricot by Sydney Grace is going to be the last shadow in the second row. Let me go ahead and get swatches for you guys. Okay, now let's move to the last row. I will go ahead and grab some secondary film for the Multichrome, the Cliondah shade, because I know that these lights are just gonna wash it out, and it's really gonna make it, you're not gonna see the flip as nicely as you would want. But anyways, there is Flame Blown. I don't know if you can better see. Yeah, you cannot see that at all. Let me just, no, that doesn't do anything either. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up on the screen here some secondary film where I can get you guys some indirect lighting and show you guys really the flip that you can see. Okay, next up, Eternally Grateful, Makeup Geek. And then, let me get a good swatch. It's a Sydney Grace shadow. It is Morning Star. And Wild West is what I used for the second to last shade. And then I'll get to the last shadow here in just a second. But let me go ahead and swatch these for you. That's Eternally Grateful. Morning Star. Morning Star is a peachy, icy shade. And then Wild West, probably one of my more favorite Makeup Geek shadows right there. It's kind of got a purple undertone, but it's like a brown. Let me build up that swatch for you. There you go. And the last shadow, Sydney Grace's Chocolate Raspberry Fudge. I've talked about this a couple times on my channel before, but Sydney Grace just doesn't sometimes have shadows that are as saturated as like Natasha Denona or Pat McGrath have, and this is one of those times. If I build up the Chocolate Raspberry Fudge, you will get a nice deep dark brown, but it's not as dark as the swatches that I saw on the actual official Natasha Denona swatches. But nonetheless, it's more of a red based brown. There you go. Okay, those are the official swatches. We're gonna have to do that this time around. Maybe even the next palette that I do, I'll have to do it this way as well. Just until I heal up. All right, let's go ahead and get into the first look where I use Asteria in place of the shade that Natasha Denona calls Vision. So let's check it out. Sorry, didn't have my mic plugged in. I never thought that was ever going to happen. I didn't understand. I'm like, so how do people do it without having a mic plugged in? Like, no, I just got to look like I have a mullet. Ugh. I can't believe I don't have anything. Whew. I always wondered why people didn't have like their mics plugged in. Now I get it. Like, I totally get it. Oh, there went that. Then grabbing, I think it's Latte or it might be Wild West. I can't remember. It's Wild West. Grab that shade and put it like right in between this so it's more gray, so there's not too much saturation. And then also I'm going to blend. I think I got that Wild West just a little bit too far up there. MAC 242. Let's, ooh, this shade right here in the corner. It's Sydney Grace, I know that. Paris. Grab it on my brush, spritz it just a bit, and start filling that on the inner portion. Or should I just do Asteria all over the lid? Asteria all over the lid. Asteria. So Devinah's Asteria. And this will tie in the green with the purple. Let me just use this mirror. Please. I don't know if this has got a tacky enough base or not. Or if I need to like put a tacky base on there. I feel like every time I do put a tacky base though, this glitter glue just, it takes off color. But let's try it. So I'm going to start kind of tapping it in, getting it somewhat dry, and then I'll put it on the lid and see if that keeps and holds some of that color down. Because I really want the Asteria to accentuate that eternally grateful and dedicated shadow underneath. Yeah, it's starting to pull up some of that shade. I don't know. Maybe I should put this in this bottle here with some water or something like that and just like mix it, and then it can just be like a spritz or something. I don't know. Spritz my brush. This is more of a topper shade, so like if I used, there we go. Now we got her. Now we've got her. It was a little bit hard to pick up the flakies. I'm gonna keep this a little lower till I get all the way up there to that eternally grateful. I feel like this shadow is really just blowing the Natasha Denona shade out of the water at this point. The green that is present in that multichrome is not nearly as apparent as, say, this purple shade. You know what? Let's just do it. Let's just buff with our fingers, shall we? Now, before y'all get crazy, all of Devinah's shades look better with the finger and with the glitter glue. That's just the way it's always going to be. They use a little bit more larger mica fleck, and that's just the way it's going to be. Okay. Oh yeah, this is perfect. Perfect. And I'm just going to bring it up slightly right out to that Tuscan shade, just kind of let it fade off. Yes. Do we like it so far? I like it. Okay, so what do you guys think of the shade Asteria in place of the shade Vision for Natasha Denona's palette? I thought it was a really great pick. I loved it, but then once I dug a little bit deeper into my collection, I found that jeweled multichrome from Cliondah really fit the bill. So I have to say that's probably going to be my final answer in this palette put together. So let's take a look at this look here and how I use this multichrome to feature a nice, beautiful, my dream look. Grabbing the Smith 235 and dipping into the shade Dedicated. It is a Makeup Geek Power Pigment. I don't think it is being sold anymore. I think it's out of stock now, and it has completely sold out. But if you own it, then you could use it. And just tapping this all over the outer corner, and then bringing it up and around so that there's a nice bit of purple that is being featured. And I'm staying above my crease because I want this to be what peeks out underneath this multichrome. unsure of whether or not I should actually go in with a black base like Makeup Geek's Corrupt underneath my eyes, or underneath the shade that I'm gonna, put the Cliondah over. I think I'm actually gonna try just putting the jeweled multichrome over the lid without anything else. Grabbing my trusty MAC 242 brush, dipping into Cliondah's, it's Flame Blown. I'm going to apply it in a thin layer, and this is quite dark as it does have a gray-black base to it. So that would suggest to me I probably need to really darken this on the outside. With a finger, you don't get as good of precision. I'm kind of seeing that now. But I'm really looking for that shift. Actually, I don't feel like it gives any better. I'm just going to dip back into that Power Pigment Makeup Geek Dedicated, which is in that same column, and just kind of buff and blend into the Flame Blown Multichrome that I applied. Then I'm also going to do the same thing on this side as well. Deepen up that crease, because what happens is when you start to blend out a multichrome, the base oftentimes is what it blends out into. So it might be gray or black, and sometimes it's not always quite as desirable. And then for the more inner portion towards the nose right here, I'm going to dip into Tuscan Sun, which is that peachy pink shade. Oopsie. And grab it and apply it more towards the inner portion, towards the nose. So it's a little bit softer. You can see it's a little bit more gentle to use when blending that multichrome up towards the inner eye. Back out, grab a big fluffy blender. I'm using the Makeup Geek concealer brush actually, and just kind of blending and buffing over those edges. I would say I think that maybe adding just a little bit of blackness right in here might be ideal, just to get a little bit more dimension onto the lid. Plus I kind of want to check out how Corrupt would function against a shade like Blackest Black from Natasha Denona. So I'm just grabbing a little bit, but I'm tapping off any excess, but just kind of making almost like a smoky liner type of effect going on. I think I would like to add some of this Eternally Grateful as an eyeliner underneath the eye. Tap off any of that excess and just adding some liner underneath the lash line. We are dealing with a rather dark looking shadow, so just kind of taking it in about 1/3 to 2/3 of the way, or maybe I should say 1/2 to 2/3. All right, followed it up with a little bit of mascara. As always, if you guys are finding value in this content, make sure you subscribe down below. Thanks so much for checking out what I'm using instead of purchasing the My Dream palette from Natasha Denona. I think it's a really great palette. There's a lot of cohesion here. It is a lot warmer than most thought when we saw swatches, or when we saw the initial sneak peek of the palette. most people thought it was cooler in tone, and a lot of people were turned off by that, seemingly and reasonably so, because a lot of these shades would look better cool toned. Let's put it that way. I think if I were going to redo this, I would probably, instead of trying to find shadows that were true to the actual, you know, shade that's featured in the Natasha Denona My Dream palette, I would probably switch this out with something a little bit lighter but cool toned still, staying in the brown pink realm but keep it cool toned. Also, I don't feel the need to have Troops and Paris, Apricot, and what's this last one? Morning Star. These are very similar. You know, when you swatch them, they're pretty similar. On the eyes, they're going to look almost indistinguishable, as well as Paris and Troops, which are up here in this portion. Those would be very similar on the eyes. When I do my looks, when I did my first look, I used Dedicated and Eternally Grateful, and I thought that was really great. Natasha Denona uses a cream to powder formula for this shadow right here. So we're not going to really establish something that's going to look exactly like her swatches or how it's going to look in the pan. It looks darker in the pan for me because I have to be able to achieve the same color. And then lastly, the black. She uses the shade the Blackest Black. I really do believe it's probably one of the blackest blacks that's on the market. I'll give her that. I'll trust her word on that. But the Blackest Black I have in my collection that I know of is Corrupt by Makeup Geek, so that's what I'm using. Other than that, I really am enjoying the looks that I've created so far. Is this a palette that I foresee myself in the future buying? Probably not. It's something that I do see myself wearing a couple more times, and then I'll probably venture into the next palette to dupe the vibes of. So thanks so much for joining me on this episode, guys. I can't wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye!